to Lord of the Vets, where I've done the research so you don't have to. Don't talk to Dr. Google, talk to a real one. Now, today I'm going to tell you about the time I got attacked by a pack of dogs and my scare with rabies, and what I did wrong and what you can and should do to completely minimize your chance of contracting rabies if you find yourself in the situation that I found myself in. So I'll start from the beginning. I was in Texas. I was in the middle of nowhere, staying in essentially hillbilly land, for lack of a better word, and I decided I would go out for a jog. So seems like a good idea, leisurely jog down the road. So I put my jogging gear on and I'm off, I'm running down the road. It was actually the second time I'd been for a jog down this road. The first time a dog had run out from a property and it seemed pretty friendly and it ran along next to me and then it sort of went back on its way. And no concern there. But this time, as I ran back past the same property, not one, not two, but 3 dogs came running out of the yard. There was no fence around the yard. They were not chained up. They were completely free to do as they pleased. And what they pleased to do on this day was to chase me down and attack me. So the first dog came running at me and it had its ears flat. And I knew it was going to attack me, without a doubt. I mean, I've seen a lot of dog body language, so it wasn't very hard for me to see that this dog was going in for a bite. So I stopped my jog, I put my foot out and I kicked at the dog and it jumped back away from me. But at this point, the 3 dogs actually surrounded me and I stopped jogging and I just started walking in the same direction that I was going before, because I knew if I kept running, they would full on attack me as if I was running from them. So I just started walking and sort of trying to ward them off with my feet. Meanwhile, there was a girl watching what was happening who owned the dogs, and probably she was 14 or 15, and she hadn't called the dogs off and they were still attacking me. And one of the dogs, it was actually a boxer, it got around behind me and it came up and it bit the back of my leg. And I didn't realize at the time, but the tooth had went right into my leg, and I had some pretty bad bruising and I was bleeding from the back of my leg. And after the dog had bit me, the 3 of them, they ran off back into the yard. So I carried on the way I was going, and it wasn't until I felt something warm running down my leg that I actually realized that I was pretty badly bitten and I was bleeding. So I went back a different way home, and when I got home, I called the police and I told the police what had happened, because imagine if I was a young kid or an elderly person and I wasn't actually able to fight those dogs off. You know, it's a very dangerous situation. Those dogs could have killed somebody. So I notified the police of what happened. I said that they weren't contained, they were completely free, and the guy I was staying with said it wasn't the first time they'd actually attacked somebody. So something needed to be done. Now the police officer told me to consult the doctors about rabies, and as I'm a veterinarian, I was very aware of what I needed to do. But did I do the right thing? No, I did not do the right thing. I did an okay thing, but I didn't do the right thing. What I did was I contacted my travel insurance company and I told them what had happened, and instead of going in and getting the prophylactic vaccine straight away, I decided, because I was traveling to Europe the next day, I decided that I would wait and I would have the dog monitored. So my friend who I was living with, I got him to check on the dog for the next few days. And so if a dog is carrying rabies, it'll show clinical signs within 5 days of rabies. So if you're getting up to day 7 to day 10 and the dog's still alive and it's completely fine and it's happy as Larry, that dog did not have rabies. So I chose to have my friend watch the dog, and surely enough, after 10 days, the dog was still completely healthy. So the dog did not have rabies, and I don't have rabies. Thank you, Lord. I do not have rabies. Rabies is a horrible disease. It is probably the worst way you could possibly die. They made us watch videos at vet school of what rabies does to humans, and think of every exorcism movie, horrible movie you've ever seen, multiply it by 100, and you've got something close to what people do when they're dying of rabies. They go insane, their muscles contract, they froth. It's horrible. So I was very relieved that that dog was okay. Now, what should I have done? I should have gone in and got a prophylactic rabies shot. I have been vaccinated for rabies previously, but I should have gone and got the prophylactic shot anyway, regardless of what the dog was doing, and then still monitored the dog. And if the dog had issues or was sick within the next 10 days, then I would need to go and do the full course of rabies shots, which I think is every 2 weeks for another 2 more sessions. So that's what you need to do if you or one of your family members is bitten by some wildlife or by a dog and you don't know the rabies status of that animal. Now, I can tell you a little bit about rabies. What is rabies? It's a virus, big word alert. It's from the Rhabdoviridae family. It's a lyssavirus, and the way it infects you is through open skin. The saliva of the infected animal gets into the cut or the abrasion or the puncture wound from the tooth, and the virus plants itself in the nervous system. So in the long nerves, and then the virus travels via the nervous system slowly up until it infects your brain and kills you. So this can take anywhere from a few weeks to even a few years, actually, depending on the site of the bite or the wound infection. It's present in over 150 countries, and over 99% of cases are from dogs. So dogs are the most likely way that people get infected. Now, you can prevent it by having a vaccine and having an antitoxin administered post-exposure to the virus. So it is completely preventable, and lots of people are getting preventative vaccines if they're going into at-risk situations, and they're getting the prophylactic treatment after they've been threatened with a possible scare with the virus. There are tens of thousands of deaths per year. Most of these are in Asia and in Africa. So those are 2 high-risk areas. Something else you should do if you get bitten is you should thoroughly wash the wound with a disinfectant such as iodine or chlorhexidine or dilute soapy water if you don't have access to those things. Wash it thoroughly and wash it for 15 to 20 minutes. This is something that really drastically reduces the chance of the saliva actually getting the virus into the nervous system. Any warm-blooded animal can be infected with rabies. One wildlife species that carries it fairly commonly in the United States is bats, and there have been cases of people getting infected via bats. Actually, the only person to ever survive rabies was a girl who got bitten by a bat inside a church, and the doctor put this girl into an induced coma in the hope that it would slow things down long enough for her immune system to fight the virus. And it did, and she survived, and she's the only person to survive a rabies infection. And I'm sure that church were praying for that girl pretty hard. There are a few countries that don't have any rabies cases confirmed, including New Zealand, Japan, Iceland, the UK, and some of the Pacific Islands. So the way the infection and the clinical signs progress in an animal is first they go through what's called the prodromal phase. So during this phase, they just seem a bit anxious and a bit unwell. They also might be licking at themselves and have a fever, and this lasts for 2 to 3 days. The next phase they go into lasts 1 to 7 days, and it's called the Furios Phase. And this is when they have those foaming at the mouth and those classic rabies signs where they're aggressive and a bit scary. And then after that they may die, or they may go into what's called the Paralytic Phase. And this is when their muscles start to go all floppy, and their tongue hangs out and they dribble, and they're just a bit dopey, and then they will die after that. This phase lasts between 2 and 4 days. So there you go. I hope you learned something about rabies and this was useful. If you have any questions, please post them below. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about rabies. Now, did I get infected? To be confirmed. Now, I did wash my wound out and the wound healed up fine, and I don't have any issues as far as I know. If you do get bitten or you have a scare with rabies, do the right thing, get the prophylactic vaccine, clean the wound out, consult your doctor, and hopefully one day we'll completely eradicate rabies from the face of the earth. We're already getting much, much better with our vaccination programs in dogs. So in developed countries, cases are getting more and more rare from domestic animals. So we're on the right track. You don't need to be afraid, just be smart and be informed. Peace out.